Just want to say this right now to every music store across the nation, every music store in the world right now, but especially right here in the state of Georgia. You guys really need to give these other instrument builders a chance. You need to give other companies a chance to put their instruments in your stores, because right now I'm a little bit over always seeing Fender, Music Man, just seeing the average, your typical brands in all of these stores. This is part of what has led to your demise, I think. I could be wrong. I'm being brutally honest, because something happened while I was in that store. Like when we left Big House Guitars and we went over to Guitar Center, and I'm looking around in there, I just got to this point where I was like, man, I'm over it. Like, I'm so tired, like my brother Brian, he's looking at guitars and he's looking at stuff, and he's getting to this point to where he's frustrated because he's trying to find the particular guitar that will give him the tone that he desires and give him the feel that he desires. We got into this discussion and I said, you know what, man, I feel like we're always going to be searching. We're never, I think as musicians, we'll never be happy. We just keep buying all of this gear. And then we realize after playing it for a little while or spending a little time with it that we may not need it anymore, or it doesn't suit our needs or something, but there's something missing lately. There's this void and this apathy that is like, it's in me, it's in everyone who works in the stores. The guys at Big House Guitars, and this is not against them at all. The guys that were working there that day, they were super polite. Contrary to what I had read about Big House Guitars, the people who were working there when we were in there that day, they couldn't have been more polite. I really liked them. I liked them so much, I was really considering buying that Fender Bandmaster, but I wouldn't have made it back through the house. I can't bring any more gear into this house right now. But yeah, it's just gotten to this point though, to where when we go to most music stores, there's like this dark cloud over them, and there's a lot of apathy. And I don't hold this against the guys who are working there. Let me make this very clear. This has nothing, of course, the employees, like depending on who is there, the staff at these music stores, depending on who they are or how they conduct themselves, it could be bad and they could be misrepresenting the company. But the thing that really concerns me is not them. Once again, it's the stores and what they're keeping in inventory. And the inventory just is like, they just have loads and loads of stuff that no one needs. I understand they're trying to sell to the masses. They're trying to stay in business. I get these things. I'm trying to be empathetic here, but I do not have the same feeling that I used to get when I would go into a music store back in the 80s and 90s. It's just not there. It was kind of there a little bit in the early 2000s, but man, I would say easily over the past 15 years, whenever I go in a music store, it's just like, you'll just see the same old thing. You're not seeing any boutique bass builders. Maybe they don't want to put their stuff in these stores too. You guys let me know in the comments. If any of you work at these stores or you're part of this industry, you're one of those people who might be at NAMM right now, please let me know, because I am not part of that world. I'm just a musician who loves to express himself through music and record. I also want to play a quality instrument when I'm doing it. I want an instrument that speaks to me. And right now, personally, I feel like I only have one instrument that does that. You guys already know, I've already talked about it, so I'm not gonna repeat all that right now. That is it. Everything else I have, if you look hard enough and you do enough research and you're patient enough, you can find those other instruments. And you can find them for reasonable prices. But trying to get your hands on a really good Padula or Ken Smith, or dare I say Carl Thompson, any of those guys, Manus, I don't know. There's a bunch of makers out there. I've been doing a lot of digging around, doing a lot of research, trying to find these companies and figure out what it takes to get to demo these basses and look at them. Because right now, if you're not looking at a Fender, a Gibson, and of course this goes for their budget models, which would be like Squire, Epiphone, Sterling by Music Man, Ibanez, Yamaha. Those are like the big five. There's some other ones too. I know there's Dingwall, I know that's a more higher quality bass. Of course, Rickenbacker too. There's some other companies. There's Paul Reed Smith. There's a lot of companies that I'm not saying right now, but you know what I'm talking about. When you go into a Guitar Center, or when you used to go into like a Sam Ash when they were around, you know, you have those two big stores and they're everywhere and they all carry the same thing. So anyway, what I'm trying to say, if you're not interested in one of those major American brands, you are SOL. Plain and simple. Now, listen, these guys may have a deal with these manufacturers to carry their stuff and they keep them in business. The people who run these stores, who run these organizations, they have to take care of a staff. They've got mouths to feed. They've got to take care of themselves. I totally get it. So once again, you have my empathy. But man, I just want to go in these stores and I want to see an instrument that just blows me away. I want to pick up an instrument and have it be in tune and have it play like butter. Not everyone's like me where they can go to an instrument and get that thing tuned up quickly. Some people get irritated. I see people doing it. I've actually asked people, I'm like, hey man, if you want, I'll tune that up for you really quick. I mean, not everyone can do that. I realize that and I'm thankful for that. It's not me tooting my own horn. I'm just saying not everyone can go in there. They don't have things sitting out. They should have cables everywhere, which they used to never put cables out there. I'm thankful for that. It seems like every time I go into any of these music stores now, they always have cables sitting out. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you. I appreciate you guys for doing that. There's always cables there so you can plug up and go. But they might need to start putting tuners out there too, because most of the instruments are not in tune and I'm finding myself tuning them every time I go in there. These manufacturers, some of them who are in the shadows, they're not being seen, they're not being heard, they're not being played. We need to see them. I want to see them in a music store. I want to go in a music store again and I want to discover the next Padula. I want to discover the next Ken Smith. You know what I mean? I just want to find an instrument that's fretted that speaks to me again, you know, or even if it's fretless, it doesn't matter. But I feel like I'm done searching for fretless basses. I've got my 2 fretless basses that I really love and I'm done. I'm sticking with those for now. Unless I see something that really blows me away, I'm not gonna go for it. Let's just put it that way. So those are my closing thoughts. You know, I hope this doesn't come off sounding selfish. It's just something that's been on my mind and it really hit me hard the other day when we went in those music stores. I just felt like, man, I go in there and I just see the same old stuff. I saw Dan Electro bass. I was gonna play it, but then I thought to myself, you know, I'm not gonna really, I've played Dan Electro guitars before, fiddled around with them. And the bass, it felt good. It was nice and lightweight, like what you want, but maybe another time I'll try it. But what happened to all these other boutique builders? Where are they? We used to have a place here in Atlanta. It was called Atlanta Bass Gallery or something like that, if I'm saying that right. He had a ton of basses in there. Like, you name it, he had them in there. He had Carl Thompson, Padula, Ken Smith, you name it. Alembic. The big boutique builders were in his place, like Tobias, all of them. But you know what? Sadly, he couldn't sell those instruments, so he moved to another location. Really nice guy who ran it. His name escapes me right now, but he was a super nice guy. But he closed it, and maybe this is the problem, and this is why I'm asking people to speak up or share their experiences, because lately, when you go in these stores, they're just overrun with an abundance of, you know, Fender, which I'm really getting tired of. And someone left a comment here. I hope you don't mind me posting your comment. Obviously you don't, otherwise you wouldn't have posted this. So anyway, I'll post his comment up here on the screen. I like Ibanez and Yamaha because they're pretty much the only big name brands that still spend money on R&D to make eye-catching instruments that are also player-friendly. P-basses sound great, but I think it's lame that Fender is still building them to 1960s specs when you could easily incorporate modern improvements that other brands beat them to 40 years ago. Dude, that is so true. I don't know if it was last year or the year before last, a couple years ago probably now, but I put out a video about when I used to chase around vintage instruments and why I stopped chasing after them. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If they could have built it better, they would have. That was one of the reasons that I put in there. If they could have done better, if they could have done the things that they do now with technology in general, they would have done it back then. And it would be even more like, it'd be even better today. But yes, I agree with you on that, man. So well said. Thank you for your comment. Hey guys, really quick, I just want to let you all know how much I appreciate each and every one of you. I don't take any of our conversations that we're having in the chats or in the comments for granted. And from time to time, I will feature some of them in these videos. So I always give credit where credit is due. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, everything else. I'll see you in the next video. Seriously, when I go into a music store and I'm looking for an instrument, I want to see a bigger variety of instruments. You know, especially when it comes to basses. I want to see the craziest basses ever, of all shapes and sizes, even an ugly bass like that guy from the Corgis has. Man, that is a pretty ugly bass, but still, it gets the job done, right?